Hey, good morning, everybody. Sarasota Tim coming to you from beautiful Sarasota, Florida, in a beautiful camper that I live in, a Flagstaff 25 FKBS, best camper in the world. This is a little bit different this morning. I was thinking about something, and I was watching some of the news clips this morning about the recent rally in New York City at the what's it called? I always forget it. It's the biggest name in the world. Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden. And many people this morning that I watched news clips of said that it was everyone. Black, white, young, old, all different religions, Jewish, American, Muslim, a real feeling of love and unity. And it reminded me of something, in the Bible that I think God is doing, bringing this coalition together, this growing, they called it the Republican Party now is an all-inclusive party, the party of everyone. And instead of being, pigeonholed or called a certain type, and I like that. And so it reminds me of something that's very popular parable in the Bible called the Good Samaritan. And while Jesus was out walking and teaching, they asked him what's the most important commandment, and he said to love your God, your Lord, with all your heart, mind, and your soul. And second is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so some of the people said, "Oh, who is my neighbor?" And Jesus told them a story. And so I don't mess it up, I'll read it to you. It's very short. It's called the Good Samaritan. And it's in a couple of different parts, read differently in the New Testament. But we're going to read the most popular one in Luke chapter 10, verse 29. And this is what I think God is doing in our country right now. So he said, "But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, 'And who is my neighbor?' Jesus replied, 'A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down the road, and when he saw him, he passed by the other side.'" A Jewish priest, and this fellow that was beat up was Jewish, and he crossed the road and passed him by. Likewise, a Levite, another Jew, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed by the other side, crossed the street, didn't want to do anything for him. But a Samaritan, and Samaritans were hated by the Jews. They were, in those days, Samaritans and Jewish people didn't get along. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine. And then he set him on his own animal, and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper, saying, "Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back." Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "You go and do likewise." So it's an obvious answer when Jesus said to the man who was my neighbor, that it was obviously the man that showed him compassion. But who was that man? A man that was a Democrat to a Republican, or a Republican to a Democrat. Because it's not true with everybody in our country, but a lot of people are actually finding that if you are a certain party and you needed something, they would essentially go across the street and walk by you. But when you find someone opposite of what you think, and generally there's a kind of a discord between a group of people, or religion, or race, or whatever, and one shows compassion on the other, yeah, you get the point now? Jesus likes that. He says, love your Father, your Lord God, as he loved the church, and love your neighbor as yourself. So I'm to love my neighbor as I love myself. And so when you see someone, and I've said this before, if you saw someone at an intersection and they got hit on their bicycle by a car and they were down on the ground, probably everyone would get out of their cars and go to help. They wouldn't ask them, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you an atheist? Are you a believer? Are you a Muslim? No, because that's our natural way. And so at the Madison Square Garden, we saw a coalition of unity in the heart of New York City, a staunch blue state where tens of thousands of people were in the arena. There was no Nazis. There were nothing but love. There were no fights. There were no protests outside. Just love of people wanting to get away from what they're trying to do to us. The terrible media and these awful, awful, negative, satanistic politicians that we have. They're the problem. And projection, the definition of that is projecting on others what you feel about yourself and what you're actually doing. And by calling Donald Trump and all his supporters Nazis, and all of those people that were there from all walks of life, ages, denominations, colors, everything else, is just an absolute despicable insult. And so I think people have finally discovered that. I think people are noticing that. And I think that God did intervene and saved Donald Trump from that assassination attempt. And people are seeing that. And people are no longer being shy or afraid. It's not about Donald Trump and esteeming him so much. It's about waking up to the fact that this is our country, not theirs. As Donald Trump said at the rally, this country belongs to us, not them. And so the silent majority is now standing up. We're going in droves by thousands, by millions to the voting booths, and we're going to vote Donald Trump in to bring this country back to where it belongs and to love our neighbors and forget about what we thought or said about each other. After we become a solid country, how much more can we do if we're together, right? Than half of us working against one another. If we were all unified and we all not necessarily thought the same way or had the same religions or anything like that, we can still do our own thing in that way, but we're together as Americans, and we understand that we're to esteem the President of the United States to protect us, to close our borders, and to do the things that a president is supposed to do, and to help us with our economy, and to make America great again, and to make America first. There's nothing wrong with any of these values, and those are the ones that I all support. I support all of them. And I think that more and more millions of Americans are having cognizant dissonance and realizing that they have been thinking wrong, and they have weird feelings about what's going on. And now they are coming and together. And let me tell you, between the McDonald's, the rally at Madison Square Garden, going back to Butler, Pennsylvania, and there was another one they said that was the 4 clinching rallies that we've seen a sequence of that has just dominated our minds. It's taken, like I said a moment ago, cognizant dissonance and made us, dissonance is how you say it, and made us realize that we're feeling guilty, that we're not thinking right. And now we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to come together as Americans, and we're going to get rid of these people that are putting themselves first and us second and lying to us. They have destroyed our country, they divided us, and they need to go. They're fired. Let's put Donald Trump back in the White House. Let's all come together and all begin to crush it.